Okay, here we are again. Um, you very likely are at home and just sort of revisiting things, maybe because our first class was a little bit overwhelming, could have been, maybe not, or you just want to practice. Anyhow, where I'm going to start off with this video is, I'll do a little recap of the whole learning activity number 2. It basically was just showing you where the help resources are and letting you know that you need to access those resources in order to do the LMS quiz that is assigned, and you got to do the quiz in order to get the to be evaluated for this week. Learning activity number 3, right here, right, is, let me just get it a little bit closer, right here. And you know what? Let me get my face off the screen because that's ridiculous. You don't need to see my face. You don't. This is it here, right? So in learning activity number 3, we're going to be working with maps, these map views, right? These are windows, just like panes are also windows, right? The contents pane, the catalog pane, symbology pane, and geoprocessing pane, that kind of stuff. We're going to be working with map views. We're going to add something to them, though, because it's getting pretty boring just looking at empty containers, right? So we're going to think about base maps. Base maps are layers. There are 3D maps as well called scenes, but we're not going to work with them yet because let's just start with the simple stuff, okay? They're a fundamental starting point in ArcGIS Pro, maps, right? And we control them using the contents pane and the catalog pane. We're going to be inserting a 2D map into a project, learning how to interact with the contents pane, accessing map properties, and we're going to add some data, or at least a layer to the map. And here, have a good look at the learning outcomes, right? You can see that, they are listed there, and we're going to add a default or hosted base map to the map view. You've already watched me play around with map windows and so on, but we're going to change the name of maps. We're going to do that kind of stuff. And we are going to start practicing our navigation skills. I'm going to be talking about these tool groups. You'll see them in the ArcGIS Pro interface. And please excuse me if I accidentally call it ArcMap. I'm a dinosaur. Okay, so here it is. The learning activity starts with users having a project open already. So do I have a project open? I don't. No big deal. I'm just going to create one. And you know what? I'll put it in my OneDrive. One thing you might want to watch with OneDrive, though, is that you don't just log off before OneDrive is finished syncing. We'll talk about that. Okay. So in here, projects, I'm going to make a project right here. And I'm going to call it intro to. Look at what I'm doing in between the words. I'm not using spaces. I'm using underscores. That's something that's important if you're going to be using computers a lot, to try not to use spaces too much, unless you're writing a document or something like that. But if you're using files that are going to be interacted with software, right, you got to be careful with your naming conventions. So I don't use spaces, you'll notice. Okay, intro to, what are we using? ArcGIS Pro, right? All right. Am I even giving it the right name? I'm just going to copy this just in case. Yeah, I did it again. This is like a common thing I keep doing. This has been happening to me for like 20 years, so it's not anything new. I keep forgetting that I'm not... I'm giving it a place to live. I'm not giving it a name when when it says new project location. I'm not trying to put the name in there. I'm just selecting the folder where it's going to go, right? And it's going to go there, and I'm going to give it this name right here, the one that I copied out. And I want to make sure I create a new folder for this project so that whatever gets created inside the project while I'm working with the software goes in that folder. It doesn't just go willy-nilly to all of these other places on my computer. So yeah, I'm logged in, and so should you. So it'll take a minute. Here we go. I get a map, and there's nothing in the map. It's a blank project. I'm set up for mapping. Got my contents pane, the catalog pane. Here I am again. Right? We can do the whole like drag this over here, and you know what? I'll show you what I typically do. I'll put the contents there. Usually we'll drag my catalog pane underneath, just so I know where it is. If that doesn't make you feel comfortable, that's fine, you know. Maybe I should just work with the default, right? We need a couple more maps to work in this activity. You'll see that we're going to need a few maps. Look at this map 1, 2, 3, mid-century, National Geographic. Where do those even come from? I'm going to show you how to get maps from the portal. Pretty easy, okay? There are always more than one way or one path to, you know, what you need. I'm not going to be showing you the best. I'm just going to be showing you one at a time because I don't want to confuse anything or confuse anybody, right? So we'll be adding stuff from the portal as well. Okay, so let's just look at the instructions, and it says if one doesn't already exist, put a map window or put a map view into the interface. We've got one. See that it has a name, right? So the default name is map. Insert a couple more and see that they're also given names. So this is where it's showing you the chronological naming convention that's given to maps as they're added to the ArcGIS interface, the project interface, right? So there's a project tab in the catalog pane where you can see that those multiple maps are going to get listed. So let me get caught up in my project here and get some more maps, right? I use the insert tab. Let me grab one more. And you know what? I'll grab a couple more. We already talked about how if you create too many maps and you don't need them all, that you can delete them permanently using the catalog pane. So maybe I'll throw one more in there as well. But they're just given these chronological, generic, you know, kind of names, and it's, you know, that's pretty boring. So that's something. I'm not going to need this map 3. I will delete it. Maybe I'll do that now. It's a right click. It's as simple as a right click, and it tells you, you know, you want to permanently get rid of this, and you say, yep, gone. So now I only have 3 maps available, and here they are. I can close them, right, and reopen them using this right click menu. There's my map. Here comes map number 1, if it'll go fast enough. And here is map number 2. I can close them and reopen them. I can dock them and undock them and nest them and do all the things that we did in activity number 1. So here they are. Now, I want to rename them. That's done using the contents pane. Remember, the contents pane interacts with a single map view, that single data frame at a time. Right? So if I go over to map, I can look at it. It's called map there. Can I rename it there? Oh, I can. Look at that. I can just single click and I have the ability to rename it whatever. Blah, 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 blah. Right? There it is. Now that's what it's called. You can also rename it by going to the properties. Now, see what I just did there? You can't see me or my hands, but I right-clicked on the map in the table of contents, the active map, and I can go to its properties. In ArcGIS Pro and in previous versions of the software, it was all about modifying the properties of things, right? Whether you're modifying the symbology properties, or whether you're modifying the names of things or coordinate systems or how things are managed or viewed, right? So that's one way to do it, is to just right click on stuff. When in doubt, right click on layers, right click on maps, right click in windows, and so on. So let's go to the properties and open them up, and you can see these are the properties of whatever that says. And I can change the name again right here. In the tutorial document, it says to give these things some specific names, I think. Yeah, it goes through the whole process of showing you how to get to the properties and all of that, what I just did. See, this document here, the one that is giving you the written instructions, there's a lot more going on as far as verbiage or wordage goes, right? Me demonstrating it and showing you the visual way of doing it, there's like 500 words here that are really 6 clicks of the mouse. So I'm going to try to keep that balance going where I'm on the right page in here, but it's just showing you the right click menu, and it's showing you the catalog pane, and right, so there are visuals in the written document as well. But if you are watching this video and following along, I'm going to try my best in the video to also be referencing the written document. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So really, I'm all the way down here in number 6. I just want to give 3 names to these maps. Now, am I able to copy? Let me just get a different tool here so I can copy the names out. So, I'm just having a real great time right now. I need this tool right here. The names that I want to give these maps are right here. So the first one, I'm just going to call it vector tile base map. And I'm copying this out. All of this is because I'm lazy, right? You see that? Isn't that lovely? So instead of this name right here in the properties, I want to call it vector tile base map. Weird name, I know. Well, that's what I'm calling it. And map number, the second map here, right? I'm going to call it raster tile base map. You don't have to copy and paste these if you don't want. That's the plan, is I'm going to go here, and I can also double click if I want to get into properties. Did you know that? Now you do. There's always 10 different ways, 10 different paths to the answer, right? So, especially in GIS, so you'll see me, I just modify the properties of this map here, and now it has a different map name than this, right? And see how I can flip-flop in between the vector tile base map. When it's activated here, well, whatever I put in this map is going to be listed in the contents. If I flip over to the raster, well, it's listed here, and whatever I put in there is going to be listed in the contents. Anyhow, I got to name this map, and I think it's called like portal hosted or something like that, because I want to show you 3 different kinds of base maps. Yeah, portal hosted. And it's kind of neat because in class we're going to be, grabbing whatever map. And I figured out something cool the other day that completely blew my mind, because you never were able to do this before, but currently you still are able to do it, and it's pretty amazing. You can actually get Google Maps to show up in ArcGIS Pro. And we'll talk about that when we get to it. So here they are. We've got a vector tile base map, a raster tile base map, and a portal hosted base map. And we updated the names of each of them. And when you update the names, look at that. They are listed with the appropriate names, or the ones that you gave them, in catalog. Cool beans. All right, what's next? So we did that, and using the right-click menu, delete the extra maps that were created. I'm pretty sure I did that already. It's permanent, blah, blah, blah. You can also export them as standalone maps. We're not going to do that right now because there's no reason to. We don't have anything in them, right? But on the next page, hopefully I can get there. Yeah, but we're going to start doing some other things. All right, so let's think about it. It says try closing and reopening each of the maps a few times. Experiment with docking the maps and setting the maps up so you can see all 3 of them together, right? This is all just trying to show you the interactivity about all of this. And again, we're not trying to jump forward too quickly. We're just trying to really take the time that it does take right at the very beginning of the course to get accustomed to how the software functions and works in a very basic way. All right, so really, when you're reading this, you're going to be like, okay, yeah, this is pretty obvious, Jerry. Well, yeah, it is, isn't it? Anyways, it's finally time to add some content to our maps. ArcGIS Pro has some reference maps that serve as backdrops, right? And they're called Basemaps. They are extremely useful. Yeah, they are. So let's add some Basemaps to ArcGIS. So I'm going to flip over to the interface, and instead of jumping back and forth a bunch of times here for each individual base map, I'm going to kind of talk as I go and get us to the bottom of this page that we're on in the written document. So let's start with a vector tile base map. It's a map, so if we want to interact with it, sure, in the contents we can interact with whatever we put in the map, but if we want to put something in the map, well, we should be using the map tab on the ribbon. So let's go to the map tab on the ribbon, and what do we see? Well, we have the explore tool that really is not very useful yet because there's nothing to explore. But as soon as we bring in a base map right here, all of a sudden we can think about what we want to do. Now I have some favorite base maps, and in the written document it tells you to put in a specific one, right? Like the topographic one or vector tile base maps. These are vectors that are made up of points, lines, and polygons, right? So they're like cartoons. They are not rasters. So rasters are images. So this vector tile base map is going to get a vector, and I'm going to put in, why does this one have a Canada leaf on it? Let's do that one. So it's updating this base map layer. And what do we have? Oh, we have some things. Look at this. Now all of a sudden our map view window, this frame that's holding this data, is now something that we can interact with, right? Let's start thinking about how we can explore this data, right? So we've got our mouse. If we roll our mouse wheel in or out, we're zooming in or out, right? That is how that works. At the very bottom of the screen, remember in the very first video I talked about this, I can zoom into 1 to 20 million, and that's what 1 to 20 million looks like. I can zoom into 1 to 2 million or 1 to 1 million, and boom, look, here I am. I don't even know where I am because I zoomed in too quickly. There, here I am, right? It's easy for me to find Sault Ste. Marie. And look, this topographic base map is pretty amazing once you get into some of these larger scales, right? Here's Lake Superior Provincial Park. If I zoom in a little bit more, we can start looking at some of the things that are here, and as you zoom in, there's a greater amount of data that is being displayed. This is Montreal River Harbor, by the way. I grew up there. That's my my hometown, and it is halfway between Sault Ste. Marie and Wawa, up the line, they say. Lovely place. Wawa is so lovely that they had to name it twice. Wa squared. So I'm zooming in and I'm zooming out. If I were to use my left click button, just click once, nothing happens. But I got this weird like green flash. That's kind of weird. Oh, it tried to identify something, but it didn't give me a pop-up. Okay, so nothing really is happening yet, and we'll get to that. And really what I want to focus on is just navigating, right? So how close can you zoom in on this thing? Can you just keep zooming in and in and in and in? And yeah, there it is. See how down here it says 0.04? I'm at a scale of 1 to 0. That's ridiculous. You're so close that you're like microscopic. That is the largest scale that in our current format or in our current setup for this project, that's as close as we can zoom in. Not a useful scale at all. I can zoom to 1 to 5,000. All of a sudden, I'm looking at lakes, small lakes. That's not really a very useful scale either. Now, what if I wanted to zoom out to the entire extent of this base map? Like, what does this base map cover? Well, it covers the whole planet in a projection that puts it on a flat surface. That's this button up here. It's called the full extent button. So I zoomed all the way out, and now I can see, this is the full extent. And look at this, I'm at about 174 million. to view the entire planet. Right? That's a pretty small scale. That's about as small as you would really want to see. Well, it's even smaller than you really want to see everything. You can keep zooming out though. I can just zoom out to the maximum zoom out level, right? It's like now I'm on Jupiter, right? I don't even know. I can barely see the planet, so I'm pretty far away. And I'm at 100 billion. I guess that's the maximum, the smallest scale that's possible. Ridiculous. Why? Why would I do that? That's silly. Here it is. Okay, I'm at 175 million. That's my scale. That's a small scale, really small scale. And again, I was using the zoom to full extent button to quickly get back to where I needed to go, right? Because as soon as I do this, I can't even find anything anymore. If I was trying to zoom in, whoa, oh, it's over there. It's hard to do it manually. So just use the buttons that help you. It's a shortcut, right? Now, that's zooming in and zooming out and using the full extent button, right? Now, you can also do what's called panning, where it's not changing the zoom. All it's doing is repositioning the window, right? So what you do is you left click and push it around. You can push the window around in the same way that you are dragging windows or dragging panes around, right? Left click and hold, and you can drag it around. That's called panning, okay? The other way you can use a left click and hold is if you were to hold down shift. See, on my keyboard right now what I'm doing is I'm pressing shift, and look at what's happening to the cursor. It's turning into what's called a zoom tool. Uh-oh. No, I don't want to run sticky keys. So be careful how many times you press shift. I just almost activated sticky keys, which is not good. Careful with that. But if I press down shift, it turns my cursor into a zoom window. So I can say, you know what, I'm going to draw a window by left clicking and dragging a box around the Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario area. And when I let go, it'll zoom to that. Right? This is another way of zooming into things very quickly. Right? I'm doing it even faster than I can draw. So here's Sault College right here. Okay? That's that. Zooming in, zooming out, zooming and panning, panning itself, and zooming into windows, right? And again, you can pan at this scale. We're at a much larger scale. And look at the base map that we're using. There's already a lot of data in it. This is the base map. This is a Canadian published base map, and this is what you would see on topographic maps. Pretty cool to just have that available, right? Let's get another base map. Let's get a raster tile base map. Now, when I say a raster tile base map, what I'm talking about is imagery. So if I go to this base map button, what am I doing? I'm looking for imagery. I'll bring in the image, and here is a raster of our planet. And you can zoom into anywhere on the planet. Oh, look at me, I zoomed in way too far. I'm at 0.0 or 1 to 0. Don't do that. When I'm at 50,000, I don't even know where I am right now. That's the thing. The imagery is beautiful. Look at how high resolution this imagery is. Problem is that I don't have any labels on it. Right? We can sort out that. There is another raster base map that also has a reference layer that can go with it. That would have labels, but I find it to be not so nice. I like to have nested, well, not nested, but windows beside each other. So watch this. I'm going to grab my raster tile base map, and I'm going to put it beside my vector tile base map. Right, so now I have two maps beside each other. Unfortunately, right now I can zoom into one or zoom into the other. Everything works fine. Well, the problem is that, you know, I still don't know where I am in this one, right? We can link them though, and we will be doing that, but let's get this portal base map set up first. I'm going to bring my portal base map over and put it on the right, so I can have 3 windows. over here. You know what else I'm going to do? I am going to close off my catalog window because I'm trying to think about real estate here. And I'm actually going to, in my contents pane, I'm going to just sort of put it there. I'm going to close it. I don't really need it right now. So now look at this. I have these 3 maps. Maybe I'm actually going to do this. Watch. I'm going to take this one, and this one, and this one, and nest them with each other so that I have this window available. Basically, what it's allowing me to do is just look at 3 separate maps simultaneously with some stuff in them. These base maps are just backgrounds. You know, there's not a lot to it, except for what you can find and see. You know, the information that's available in these base maps, there's actually a ton. Once we start using some higher level tools. But right now, we're just using this tool group right here on the map tab of the ribbon interface, and it's called the Navigate group. And in it, you've got your Explorer, you've got your full extent. We're going to be creating some bookmarks, we're going to be going to some XYs, we can add base maps, we can also add data from a path. Now, when I say path, that word path is a pretty important word. Right? The path to your data is really important. The path to where your project is saved is pretty important. I'm sure people have heard of their My Documents folder, right? And your OneDrive folder and so on. So we've got to think clearly about that. But there's also paths that go external, away from your computer, out into the World Wide Web, hosted layers. And you use the Add Data dialog window in order to access those. In the written document, right, it talks about hosted layers, right? The third map view needs to have a base map also, but instead of a built-in layer like the other 2, we're going to use the ArcGIS Online portal. Now, you have access to the ArcGIS Online portal through ArcCatalog directly, and you can also get there using the add data dialog. Okay, so I'm going to show you 2 different ways to get there, and they are as such. Right, so in ArcMap now, I'm going to flip back there. Let me grab my catalog pane. Since I closed it, I can still grab it. It's right here. Right, notice that it's just sitting right here. Now, if I wanted to bring data into this map right here, I'm not sure exactly. I'm still learning the limitations around this, but if I go to the portal, I know how to get data, right? But the thing is that there are some little idiosyncrasies around, you know, can you bring data from the portal directly into a map that already exists, or so on. So, but the point is that in the catalog pane, you can go outside of your project, right? I can go outside of my project and click on the portal. And then there I can click on this Living Atlas. And when I click on the Living Atlas, I can all of a sudden, I can think about, okay, well, what am I looking for? You have to think about, and you have to sort of know what you're looking for when you go into the Living Atlas, because there's so much. It's the entire internet of GIS data and layers that have been made available through Esri's software, right? So there's a lot there. It comes from tens of thousands of users. So if I click on the Living Atlas, what I got to think about is, how am I going to filter this data that's available? And I'm going to go in and I'm going to start by just playing around with the categories. Now, we're working with base maps right now, so let's work with a base map and see what it did. It updated the portal listing. Now I'm going to go into these base maps and I'm going to be a little more specific. I'm going to go for vector tiles. And as soon as I do that, what kind of vector tiles do I have available? Look at them all. I've got OpenStreetMap, Modern Antiques, Streets Night, Navigation, Human Geography. And they're all given relatively decent names. I can't actually see what they look like, which is unfortunate. But here's topographic. It's also built into the software, so why would I add it from the portal, right? But there's some cool ones like newspaper map. I don't even know what that is. Am I able to add it? Well, it says add and open. That means, look at this. It's actually, it wants to, these are maps that you can add. I can't add this map to another map because it's already a map, if you know what I mean. So if I were to add and open it, what it's going to do is it's going to add another map, right? So here it is here, and it basically is it's a hosted map, and it's called newspaper map, but it's not one of the 3 that I created, right? So using catalog is fine for grabbing hosted data, right? But when you're bringing in Basemaps, it can be difficult because it always wants to, you can't add a map to a map. You can add a layer to a map, right? So I wanted to point that out. What we're going to do is, instead of using catalog to go through the portal and find a base map, we're going to use, and I'm going to activate my portal hosted basemap view window, and I'm going to go to the map tab, and I'm going to use this add data function, or this add data dialog. And you can see you can add data from your computer, you can add data from a path. So let's add data from a path. Oh, no. Sorry, that's a completely different exercise. I just lost my brain there for a second. Add data to the map. That must be it. Yeah, I'm going to add data to the map. All I want is the add data dialog box. Sorry, I just I got ahead of myself there. So again, what I did was I went to the add data to the map. The simplest way to add data to a project is to just add data to the map. You don't have to be, connected to any specific folder or anything like that. You can just go and find what you need and put it in the map. And you also have access to the portal here. So see what I'm looking at. Inside my project, right, I've got, there's this database here that, this would be where data would get saved to if we were to make it, but we aren't making anything yet. And there's also a folder listing, and you could add a greater number of folders for like a quick path to data on your computer if you want, but for us, we're going to the portal. So let's go right to the Living Atlas, and let's search the Living Atlas by filtering to Basemaps. Let's look for vector tiles, and let's find one. I'm gonna look for, what was it, colored pencil? Let's see if we find anything. Look at that, we got one. Okay, there it is. And what does it say about this? It says that it's a vector tile layer. It tells you who owns it, because you got to think about data in that way. You have to give props to the people that created the data. You've got to think about data that way, right? Just because you're using data, it doesn't mean you own it. The people who created it are the originators of it, right? So think about that as well. So let's bring this in and say okay. And is it going to show up? Look, there it is, colored pencils. That's kind of a cool look, right? It's just it's a backdrop. So now I want you to think about that concept, right? This base map that I just added could be the reference layer that sits in the background for you to create something cool. So you want to publish something that tells a story about, where you live or something along those lines, and you want it to be informal. You just want it to be, a fun map. There's all kinds of stuff you can pull up to help you to do that, right? So think about it that way. The raster tile that I have up here is kind of neat as well, because it's all the most up-to-date and high-resolution imagery that's available in the software currently, right? and it's pretty awesome to have a look at, right? Everything's there, and you know, it gets updated frequently, which is kind of cool. Okay, so I think we're kind of getting the idea. Now, in the written document, I don't want to get lost, but I want to think about some other things, right? Like once you have the 3 in, well, we have 3 docked map views, each with Basemaps added. Let's have a little bit of fun. Let's link them together so that you can see them all at the same time. I hope I'm not going into the next activity. No, I'm not. Okay, so what I mean by linking them together is currently in the map, you know, I've got 3 different maps at 3 different scales, right? This one here is at 1 to 33,000. I can change it 1 to 50,000. This one's at like, you know, about 1 to 10 million. So maybe if I go 1 to 5 million, right? They're all independent of each other, right? 1 to 20 million zooms me out to almost Canada. This one here is, I don't even know where it is. If I go to 100 million, like it's at kind of like a global scale, and this one's at more of a national scale, and this one currently is at more of a regional or a local scale, right? Large, medium, small. Now, if I wanted to link them together, no problem. Let's just say I wanted to link these together, and so that all 3 of them stay at the same scale as each other, and also maintain the same positional spot for the window, right? So the same extent of the window. So when I link them, and it's super easy. All you got to do is just go to the View tab, because we're changing the view of these windows. And instead of, you know, resetting the panes or anything like that, you can link the views or link cursors. Let's go link views and say center and scale. When I do that, look at what happens. Now I can move anywhere and zoom in, zoom out, and they all zoom in and out simultaneously with each other. And why is that cool? Well, let's just say I'm working with this raster window, and I want to go and find out anything about the planet and be like, whoa, that looks cool. Oh, look at that. Those are called the Belcher Islands. Right? I have, and in this colored pencil sign there, this is what they look like, right? I can go anywhere on the planet and find out some simple information, or at least get some simple views. Linking map views is pretty sweet. At least I think it is. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a big nerd, but well, I know I am. So here's Manicouagan, which is pretty cool. Anyways, what next? What can we do next? So there's a lot to talk about, right? So we've added these base maps in, we've added them, and the next thing to do is to think about them. What happens when you maximize your map windows, right? So let me go back here. If I hit this window, this maximize button, it maximizes the windows, but now I don't have access to the ribbon, so that's a bit of a pain, right? Now, if you had multiple monitors, that'd be pretty sweet, because you could take this and you could maximize it on a secondary monitor, right? And have tons of real estate to work with, and it's quite comfortable, actually. And that's why the software is built this way. It's to, like, at home, I use multiple monitors at home. I used to have 3. I actually reduced it to 2 because I gave one to one of my kids, and now, you know, I'm actually going to be building a new system soon. That's something else. So I can actually grab this dragon. I'm going to put it so that it fills as much space as possible, and set it up in a way so that I can see everything, and get ready to work at the next activity, right? So there it is. Pretty cool stuff to link the views, to have multiple maps open with some base maps in them, whether they're raster, vector, whether they're built in or whether they're hosted from the Living Atlas through the portal connections that you have available when you have internet. Okay, cool beans. Now, where am I at next? Let's see. I don't want to get lost in my documents here. Now, there's a lot more description in the written document. I've already talked about that, right? So here, I'm just using my pictures here to see where and what I was talking about and where I'm at and so on. Yeah, zoom to full extent, linking the center and scale of multiple maps together. Good, that interface and so on. Oh, this is a cool one right here. I don't want to go there, I want to copy this. There is a link right here that allows you to add the Google Maps base map. I'm going to go and do that because I just think it's super cool. So let me get back into Arc here, and this portal hosted base map bit, yeah, sure, whatever, it's cool, but I'm actually going to replace it with a different one. Let me go to the map and let me go add data, and this is where I would add data from a path or URL. I can't remember what URL stands for, but here's my path. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to say automatic, and I'm just going to hit add, and let's see what I get. It should work. Is it working? It was supposed to work. It worked before, and of course now I'm recording. Let's see, what if I just go here and get rid of that? Looks about right. No. I had it working the other day. And here I am. So instead of automatic, let's vector tile service. Ooh. Maybe? Come on. Let's try again. You know what? Maybe I'm just out of luck. I'll try again, and if I did get it working, I will show you how I did it in a future video, but it's just not working. I mean, you could watch me fail over and over again. Try one more time. I'm seeing it. It's looking fine. Nope, it's not going to work with that one. Let's try one more time. Oh. Of course I added it to the wrong one. I figured it out though. I'm just going to switch back over to the raster base map here. Hopefully. Get my contents pane. I'm just doing a great job here, aren't I? Okay, so contents pane is here. Let me grab it, put it back, and tiled service layer, let's remove it. And now my world imagery is there. So yeah, I'm going to go over here to this one, and I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to get rid of this one. Oh, it worked the first time, but it put it underneath the darn... Oh, man. I'm just having a great day. Drawing order, right? Like if I were to go back over to this map tab and add another base map in, say the imagery one, and it updates the base map, if the world imagery was over top, right, you can't see what's underneath it unless you uncheck things in the table of contents, right? like we're going to be talking more about how the table of contents interacts with data, but of course, when we're just doing the introductory stuff, I want to make sure that people see it. So I'll remove that. This tiled service layer, right? Can I rename it? It'd be lovely to call it Google Maps because that's what it is. That'd be cool. It's a bit of a hack job, but is that not cool? Here we go. I have Google Maps in ArcGIS Pro. I know that that might not seem very cool or amazing, but for me, being an old dinosaur, I cannot believe it. I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe that, this is where we're at with GIS, right? Coming from somebody who worked in the 90s, the 1990s, the mid 90s, and that's where my training started, to a point now where, I see where we've come to, and it's just like everything is so much easier, which is awesome because that means that we can focus on higher level skills and learning some pretty cool things. Anyways, Google, right? Look at this. Now you can know where all the Tim Hortons are in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, right? Is that not cool? I could right click on stuff and say, hey, what's here, right? And it's going to bring a pop-up window. All of a sudden, look at all of this. What did I just do there? Whoa, what just happened, right? So that's pretty neat. What is this? DeLuca's Pizza, right? What's here, right? Pretty cool stuff. What I'm doing right now is I'm just right-clicking, okay? And what I like about this is that, I have the raster available, right? But I also have the Google Maps available, and I've got the topo maps available, all having different types of labels. Like, not all of the labels are the same. Some of them are, right? But not all of them are. And you can kind of compare base maps and decide, which base map is going to be the best for the project that you're working in. Because you got to think about how you're going to publish something or make a product that, is useful. You don't just, save a base map and say, hey, look at the map I made. Well, you didn't make the map. You just brought a base map in. GIS is a lot more than that now. So, anyways, I think we're almost at a point where we can talk about the next learning activity. Right. So the next learning activity is going to be about inquiring. And also moving to positions, right? So we are zooming in, we're zooming out, we're panning around, going to the full extent, and zooming into zoom windows, all with the base maps, right? And we'll get better and better at working with zooming in and out and navigating, right? But there are different ways to navigate as well, and how do you record where you've been, right? We're going to create bookmarks. And that's kind of fun too, because you can actually create the bookmarks, save the bookmarks, export the bookmarks, and you can share them amongst your friends, your GIS friends. You can say, hey, I've got a list of 15 different bookmarks of places that I want to go this summer with my family, or I've got bookmarks of different hiking trails that I want to do, or places that I want to go fishing, or whatever, right? And we're going to get into doing that in the next learning activity. And remember, this is just still the introduction. We're just kind of, the things that we're doing with the software right now are very, very intro level basic. All we're doing is just learning, what it does. And it's very similar to using Google Maps or Google Earth or those programs, right? And really what we're doing is showing you that you can combine all of those resources together and have a very powerful product, or at least a very powerful window into the world of GIS information. It's like these days, everything is tracked, right? I'm being tracked right now doing this presentation. Every single word that I say is probably going through some sort of a filter of some sort to figure out, if I'm, if I got to deal with copyright, or if I've got to deal with, different kinds of censoring filters and all that kind of stuff. So you know how it goes. You understand how that all works. It's the same in GIS, right? Everything's tracked. We eventually want to get to a point where we know where everything is, and we know everything about everything that is where we know where it is. That sounded really weird, but we want to know everything. We want to have everything recorded and set up so that we can have access to spatial data. That's all I got to say for now. Learning Activity 4 is next in the next video, and let me try to get this. Where it is? So many buttons. Here I am. Yeah, so thank you very much, and this video is probably a little bit long, but again, it's meant to be used outside of class. All right. See you on the next one.